Hey, my name's Alex. Thanks for tuning in. In this MovNat tutorial, we're going to look at the skills of stepping over an obstacle both forward and sideways, as well as sitting onto an obstacle and swinging our legs over to get over an obstacle that's a little bit too high or too wide to step over easily. We're also going to look at stepping across from one target to another in order to avoid hazards or adapt to other environmental demands. Let's get started with stepping over a knee-height obstacle.
Start by standing on one leg and reaching with the lead leg over to the other side. Don't shift your weight onto that front leg just yet. Just use it as a point of contact, making sure that you have controlled balance of your weight supported by the rear leg and firm contact of your foot on the ground on the other side, making sure that you're actually able to clear this obstacle. Once you're ready, you can try shifting your weight onto the front leg without lifting the back leg, without touching the obstacle. When you're ready, you can make sure that you have all your weight shifted to the front leg before lifting the back leg so that you're not having to stabilize any imbalance. Same thing when stepping backwards, taking the time to make sure you have the sequence down. Stepping, shifting, and then stepping. Once you get a feel for it, you can try putting a little bit of flow into the movement and step over with your normal cadence. Stepping forward over an obstacle is the quickest way to traverse. However, once you get to a certain height, it becomes a bit of a mobility challenge and sometimes more effort than it's worth. In these cases, you can try stepping over sideways instead of forward, shifting into a sideways stance and then lifting your leg over to the other side before traversing over the obstacle and then resetting to a forward step. You can break this down into a few different pieces. Try practicing just approaching the obstacle and transitioning between forward walking and sideways facing step. At this point, you can practice that step, lifting the leg as if you're about to clear the obstacle. Once you're ready, you can try raising your leg all the way over the obstacle as a point of contact, as we did with the progression in the forward step over. When you're ready, you can practice shifting your weight from that back leg to the forward leg, making sure that you're not touching the obstacle with your legs. And finally, bringing the trailing leg over to the other side.
We can also use these movements as mobility exercises without the use of obstacles.
You can practice the transition between stepping forward and stepping sideways. An excellent hip mobility drill is just isolating the movement of lifting that leg, abducting the thigh towards that side, and reaching over that imaginary obstacle. Do this slowly in order to really develop control in the movement before moving on to doing it with obstacles.
Here are a few of the most common inefficiencies that most people tend to fall into.
Namely, looking down or rounding your back, and falling forward into the step instead of stepping with control.
Next, let's take a look at sitting up onto an obstacle and swinging our legs over to the other side. I like to call this the butt vault.
Lift your leg and position your thigh across the length of the obstacle.
Make sure that when you're loading that leg up onto the obstacle, the bar or whatever it is that you're sitting over is on the outside of your upper thigh and on the inside of your lower thigh. Otherwise, it is going to be very uncomfortable.
Once you get the feeling of this technique, you can put a little bit of flow into it and do it a little more smoothly.
Finally, let's take a look at stepping across from one target to another.
This one is good to do on flat ground. Just hinge at your hips and bend your knees, reach out to the side with one leg as far as you can, and then shift your weight from the trailing leg to the lead leg. You can use your upper body and arms to counterbalance, allowing you to reach a little bit farther for this technique. So try and play around with reaching in different directions, and you can really turn this into an interesting mobility drill. When you're ready, you can move on to using targets. This can be elevated surfaces or just designated spots on the ground. When you want to increase the challenge, you can just increase the space between these obstacles, focusing on that reach with the arms to get a little bit more distance with the reach with the legs.
Now let's look at combining stepping over and across an obstacle from one target to the other. So you have a precision step.
If you're working with a lower obstacle, you can bring the targets farther apart, really focus on reaching across as your primary objective.
Once you become familiar with these movement patterns, make sure that you get out in nature and do something with them. You're gonna find so many little challenges in nature if you look for them. So get out there and enjoy yourself. That's it for today. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Again, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.